Hello there guys, and welcome back to part 2 of my bumper Doctor Who DVD collection, where we will be focusing on the Deadly Assassin all the way to Logopolis, and this is the Tom Baker years from 1974 to 1981. Now this is quite an interesting story because it does not feature any companion in the TARDIS. This is a story where the Doctor gets summoned to Gallifrey, and he chooses to elect himself as President of the High Council of Time Laws, and he ends up shooting someone with a gun, but in actual fact it turns out to be a darkly dishevelled master, played by Peter Pratt in this story. The fact that it got no companion is quite good, and the fact that the Doctor chooses to become an A2B President of the High Council of Time Laws. And he ends up getting implicated in a scandal by supposedly murdering someone. For this story, I would give that someone in the story is the President of the High Council of Time Lords, who the Master eventually shoots to death. I would give this story a 8.5 out of 10, maybe a 7.5 out of 10. Yeah, it's quite a good story. You've got the usual special features there in that story. The fact that it's not got a companion, which is quite an intriguing aspect of the story. So yeah, I would say a 7.5 to an 8.5 out of 10 to that. This by many is regarded as a classic story of Doctor Who's era. It's the Robots of Death Special Edition. You've obviously got the robots there being controlled by a dark force. You've got the second appearance of the Doctor's companion, Leela, which is actually, quite a good, interesting character, as she's from the Severteam tribe, which is explained in the first story, The Face of Evil, when she appears in. And yeah, she's from the tribe of Severteam. You've got the usual special features there. You've got the robot being controlled by a darkly presence, and the Doctor had to do something. You've got VO5 robot, I believe it's called in this, or D67 robot. For this story, because it's a classic, 8.5 out of 10, I would give this story. Yeah, quite good. You've got the robot there. Yep. I believe this story ended up having a coincidental tone with the Heavenly Host from the story The Voyage of the Damned, but I'm not too sure about that. So yeah, I would give this an 8.5 out of 10 for the Robots of Death. This, by many, is also regarded as another classic. It's the Horror of Fang Rock. Basically what you've got is the Doctor and Leela transport themselves to a lighthouse and get involved in spookly goings-on. They get controlled, I believe, they get controlled by the Rutans, who are supposedly the enemy of the Sontarans, and they end up being controlled, I believe, by the Rutans, and get involved in scrapes with the Rutans. On the basis of the story, I would give this, you've got the usual special features there. Good pictures there. I would give this story a 6.5, maybe 7 out of 10 for the Horror of Fang Rock. Yeah, it's quite a good story. Would I recommend it to people? Yes. It's a good story. You've got a lighthouse, you've got a lighthouse, Rutans, you've got the people there that came from a ship onto a yacht that was passing but ended up getting stranded on the rocks into the lighthouse. So yeah, I would give this a 6.5 out of 10. Now, where do I start with this story? This story has recently been voted as a classic. This, to many Whovians, is a classic story. I am of course talking about the talent of Wing Chiang. We just start with this. You've got the Sherlock Holmes references there. You've got Jago and Lightfoot. You've got Lee Sing Cheng, and who does that person that Deep Roy played in this one here. That one there I'm referring to. Yep. I like the combination of Jago and Lightfoot and Lee Sing Cheng controlling the puppet of the boy that person next to Tom Baker is playing. Deep Roy there. I'm talking about there. Yep, there. You can see him there. Yep, that's the one, yep. Oh, it's a great story. Basically, the Doctor and Leela get transported to Victorian London, I believe, yep. And they end up taking part, watching, a show by the masterful Lee Sing Cheng, who controls people with the puppet. And you've got the humorous duo of Jago and Lightfoot, who are actually in the Big Finish audios if you want to check them out. Yeah. Oh, this is a brilliant story. I would rate this a 10 out of 10 just for it being a classic story. It's a great story. The Talons of Wing Chang. 6 parts. It runs quite the right amount of time, I would say, for the Talons of Wing Chang. You've got the Doctor kidnapped there in a coffin-shaped thing. Yeah, it looks like a coffin. You've got the Doctor dressed up as Sherlock Holmes, Leela dressed in Victorian clothing. Yep, I would give this a 10 out of 10 just for being a classic this story. By many is also another classic, as it shows Robert Holmes, who was the writer of the story, his dissatisfaction with the Inland Revenue, or as they're called in the story, the Inland Retinue. All the money they get paid in the story had to be paid to the controller there, played by Henry Wolfe, and the Doctor had to defeat the controller as he's paying taxes to his own people. Well, his own people forces him, he forces his own people to pay the taxes that the government is owed, which is, in hindsight, fair enough. But to be controlling with the money and also to use mathematical terms are quite unrealistic, to be honest. Yeah, I would say it's a good story. Obviously the dissatisfaction of the Inland Revenue is quite good. The 4th part works well. You've got the usual special features. You've got, apparently they're in Pluto or somewhere like that. But they're actually in contemporary 70s Earth filming this story. I would give this story maybe a 7 out of 10, 8 is a definite 8 out of 10 for the Sunmakers. Yeah, K9 as well makes an appearance in this story, which is actually quite good. So yeah, I would give this an 8 out of 10. To many people, especially the ending of the story, is regarded as a weak story, because it sees the staying on of Leela deciding to stay on Gallifrey and marry a Gallifreyan guard. You've got the reappearance of the Sontarans. I don't know why they only appear for 2 episodes, but then you've got the 4 episodes of the story are taken up by the Vardans, and then the last 2 episodes are taken up by the Sontarans going through the Doctor's TARDIS. This is a story written by a pseudonym called David Agnew, who in this case is scriptwriter Anthony Reid and Graham Williams. Now, the pseudonym the pseudonym David Agnew will appear again very shortly in this video. The fact is that the Vardans are there, and then the Sontarans are a filler. It's kind of weak in my opinion, on the basis of the story and the fact that Leela decided to stay on Gallifrey and marry a Gallifreyan guard. It's quite a weak spot in my opinion, so I would give that maybe a 5.5 out of 10 for the Invasion of Time, just for the fact that the Vardans are there as the supposed enemy in 4 of the 6 episodes, and the other last 2 episodes are the enemy, the Centaurans in this story. You've got one character, Castellan Kellner, who appears in the story. I think he appears in many Doctor Who stories, I'm not too sure. But yeah, 5 out of 10 for that, for Invasion of Time. But don't worry, the pseudonym David Agnew will appear yet again in another story coming up shortly. Disregarding season 16, which is the Key to Time story arc, as I do not have it on DVD to own, so we're just going straight on to season 17, and that is Destiny of the Daleks. To many people, it's one of the weak Dalek stories, as the Daleks are quite boring in this story. You've got Davros there, played by a completely different actor to the one previously mentioned before, and that is Michael Wisher. Michael Wisher for the story was unavailable, so they decided to cast, I cannot remember who it was, but it was quite a boring portrayal of Davros, as the fact is that the mask made for Michael Wisher, who played Davros in the previous story featuring the character, did not fit the actor now playing Davros in this story. It's a letdown. And also the fact the Daleks have bombs strapped to their hemlines, I would say. Yeah, it's disappointing. I see the regeneration of Romana, played by Lala Ward in the story. Now, Romana previously appeared in season 16, which I don't have on DVD to own. It's quite a letdown story. You've got the Movellans, they're fighting against the Movellans in this story. You've got the regeneration of Romana. Yeah, it's quite, I would say it's an okay story. It's not to be loved and appreciated. I would give this again, as the previous story I gave, a 5 out of 10. So, yeah, there's a couple of letdowns there. You've got the usual special features there, blah blah blah. So yeah, I would say a 5 out of 10 just for the fact that Davros is played by a completely different actor whose mask didn't fit. And yeah, but I have to say a good point about this story is that the regeneration of the Romana had shimmery tones in the story. So yeah, 5 out of 10. Now, where do I start with this story? To many it's regarded as an absolute classic. Simply because you've got Scarroth, the last of the Jackaroths. You've got Romana wearing her schoolgirl uniform. You've got the fact is that it's filmed in Paris, which is the city of love, I believe. Something like that. And the fact that part 4 is memorable because 16 million viewers watched this story. They either had to watch it or face a blackout because ITV were on strike at this time. The strike previously affected a story which I'll go on to later. Scarroth, the last of the Jaggeroth, plans to kidnap the Mona Lisa, goes back in time to visit Leonardo da Vinci in 1565, I believe it is, and meets the Doctor there in TARDIS. You've got a memorable cameo by John Cleese, who is one of Monty Python's legendary people. You've got Scarroth, the last of the Jaggeroth. You've got whoever his partner is played by, she's a German actress. To many, this is a classic, so I would give this story a 10 out of 10 for this. It's an absolute classic. The fact is that 16 million people watch part 4, or else they face a blackout, which is astonishing really, as no other Doctor Who episode has beaten part 4's high ratings. Now, I can't really comment because I haven't really seen this story, but supposedly it's good, and this story is The Creature from the Pit. This followed on straight from a previous story that I mentioned, which is titled City of Death. Romana's in this story. You've got the Doctor. As I said, I can't really comment because I haven't seen it, and that is The Creature from the Pit, so I can't really give it a rating. Now, this story, The Nightmare of Eden, has a troubled production because the director of this story is the semi-retired Alan Bromley. Directed Sarah Jane Smith's first adventure, which is The Time Warrior. featuring the first appearance of the Centaurans. Now, these monsters were supposedly mud monsters, but because of budgetary reasons, that wasn't the case. You've got the Doctor and Romana decide to go into the Forest of Eden to try and figure out who is in there looking at them. Obviously you've got trouble with production because you also mentioned drugs. Now, the drugs originally for this story were to be called Zip, a fancy name, but it ended up being changed to Vraxlone. Now they try and find out who the smugglers of Vraxlone is, and the Empress, which is the ship name, and the Hecate get collided into each other, and the Doctor had to try and pull them apart to make sure that they don't pressure into each other. That he got trouble with production because Alan Bromley, the director, and Tom Baker had numerous arguments. Tom Baker would answer back in an angry manner to what Alan Bromley, the director, was saying. You've got the usual special features there. For the factors, and also one of the characters tried and imitates an Italian accent, but it sounds like an Australian Italian accent. And these thingies, those were meant to be mud monsters, but it wasn't to be, because it was a total production. But overall, it's a great story. You have a reappearance of K9 in this story. I would get this story on the basis that it maybe that it's quite good. A 7.5 out of 10, noting the troubled history that the story would have. Now, this story definitely does have a troubled production, and it is called Shada. I can categorically say that only the location footage of the story was filmed. 2/3 of the footage that was meant to be filmed in 1979 were cancelled due to strike action at the BBC that affected everyone. For the 2/3 of studio action that were meant to be filmed, we obviously will never know unless you watch Ian Levine's animation on Vimeo, which I'll put a link on down below. It involves the Doctor and Romana going to see Professor Chronotis, a Gallifreyan Time Lord masquerading as a Don of Cambridge University. It says you've got Skagra and his invisible spaceship. You've got the Time Lords that are involved. K9 is involved, voiced by David Bailey for season 17, ranging from Destiny of Dalek to Shada. The fact is, this is a very troubled production, and it was written by Douglas Adams. It was meant to be in 6 parts. For this story, you can only watch the location footage with footage that was narrated by Tom Baker back in 1992. Because it's I would say it's an okay story, but it has a troubled production. I would give this a 2.53 out of 10, but the location footage more than makes up for it by watching the 1992 linking narration. I will post a link to the Ian Levine Shada animated Reconstruction down below in the link. So yeah, check it out if you can, guys, for this release. But if you want this DVD, you have to watch it with the linking narration from 1992, and it's a 2-disc set. So yeah, okay. I haven't watched the 2003 BBC Flash animation of Shada though, with Paul McGann as the Doctor. So once I've watched that, yeah, it will be interesting to see how it is perceived by myself. So yeah, I would give that a 2.5 out of 10. This story marks the start of season 18 of Doctor Who, and it is called The Leisure Hive. Now, this is his first story that producer John Nathan Turner, who you will hear about maybe quite a lot in later editions of my Doctor Who DVD collection, Yeah, the Doctor becomes an old man. You've got chalk on the TARDIS. No, you don't have chalk in the TARDIS, but you do in Nightmare of Eden. They go to the planet of Argolis, which is apparently bankrupt. The Doctor becomes an old man. He fools them into thinking he's a high-profile figure. And also the fact is that the BBC Radiophonic Workshop makes a return. In this story, no Dudley Simpson for this story, who composed the incidental music for the 70s Doctor Who. On the basis of this featuring the Argolins, you've also got a bit of CGI involved, can tell. Yeah, we give the story a 7.5 out of 10 for the Leisure Hive. Me, personally, I think this is one of the weak stories of Tom Baker's last year as Doctor Who. You've got Melka, the statue of Melka, and you've got Anthony Ainley, who makes an appearance as Tremis. You've also got the first appearance of the Doctor's companion, played by Sarah Sutton, and she is Nyssa. Now Tremis, who's played by Anthony Ainley, is Nyssa's father. And Melka, the statue of Melka, is the Master in disguise. Now the Master in this story is played by Peter Pratt. And the Master towards the end ends up absorbing Tremis' body and becoming Anthony Ainley with a black beard, who now plays the Master. It's quite a weak-willed story because although it's got the first appearance of Nyssa, and we've got the second appearance of Adric, the Doctor's companion, as featured in the previous story, Warrior's Gate. On the basis of the whole, and the fact that it's a weak story, I would give this a 5.5, maybe a 6 out of 10 for The Keeper of Kraken. And finally, we go on to the last story of Tom Baker's reign, and that is Logopolis. Logopolis is actually quite a fantastic story, as you've got the Doctor who ends up knowing that he will regenerate in this story, and the Watcher tells him to come and talk to him. You've got the Master, now played by Anthony Ainley in the story. Now, Nyssa thinks that her father, Tremis, from the previous story, is still alive. You've got them involved with the Watcher. You've got the first appearance of Tegan and her auntie. Now, Tegan is driving in the car because she had to go to a job at Heathrow Airport. And she ends up thinking that the TARDIS is a real police box, and to try to call for help as she's broken down. Now, the Doctor ends up getting involved with the police as he is arrested for impersonating a police officer in this story. Her auntie, Tegan's auntie, gets killed in the story, in the first part of the story, and the Watcher ends up regenerating into the Doctor towards the end of the story. But before all that, the Doctor ends up having a little fight with the Master, because it's a battle of wits against each other, and the Doctor ends up falling to his death on a satellite pole and ends up regenerating from himself into the Watcher and into the Fifth Doctor, who I will now be talking about in the next installment of my Doctor Who DVD collection. The next one will be fairly short because I don't have many of the next Doctor serials. So yeah, this concludes the bumper edition of both the Jump Out years 1970 to 1974 and the Tom Baker years from 1974 to 1981. Thank you for watching.